image makers, you know. But then you think about like, okay, and I think to my way of thinking, like 6 cameras, I don't know how to light for 6 cameras. Not that them all look good.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It would give most DPs a heart attack.
Somebody's getting front lit.
But but you know, it's just cool. It's just like.
But he was prioritizing what, performance, right?
Well, because you know,
improv.
It allows you to have coverage for every version. They were talking about Jared Leto's performance, and Jared never does the same thing twice.
Right.
Really, Jared's pretty. Actually, now that you mention it, I forgot about my experience with Jared doing the Joker, and it was amazing. But he had the script, but he really built the thing. Like he would go, and I'd say, "Oh, that was cool," but I'm not sure that one idea there. Could you bring that earlier? And he would do it, but it would then the end would be a little different. You know, it always kind of.
Right.
He'd always get there, to the end, but there'd be some.
It's a journey.
Some little cul-de-sac that he would get in and come back. But anyway, so that was, but with the 6 cameras, the dialogue, the riff had the reactions from everybody as well, right? So if he said something crazy,
you
still had the other guy.
Yeah.
Or I guess here.
Yeah, because you go through the work in the script of reminding the reader that that's happening. Yeah. So it's like, again, it's reminding the viewer now that that's happening.
Cool. That's
you know,
good.
it's like, yeah.
What's your process like with reshoots? Because I've heard stories where you'll get people come over to the house and you just shoot things in the backyard.
I did that on Justice League. I had never really reshot anything. We did a reshoot on Sucker Punch that we didn't use.
Yeah.
I had never had a reshoot until Justice League. And that was really more about filling out some of the ideas from the original idea. And so there was a bunch of, you know, and at that time it was, you know, COVID had started and the studio was, we had a certain amount of money to do it and there was no really reshoots in the budget. So I just was like, well, I'll just do it myself. You know, just have the guys come over and we'll just shoot something here in the yard. You know, I did a fair amount of that. Wasn't like real scenes. It was just like little
pieces,
piece here and there,
transitional pieces.
Yeah, I feel like you could do that. I've never had to do that, but it seems like a really easy, with a small, you know, setup, you can do a lot of that if you felt like.
Yeah, knock those things out. We love reshooting.
I know JJ does that. He has like
little pickups?
Like
we built a small stage over here, next door, just next door.
Just for pickups,
just for that purpose.
Oh, see, that's cool. That's what I mean. Yeah, like you could. A green screen and a thing, you could pretty get away with murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, especially in this day and age with the technology.
Yeah, but at that scale, it's different. You know, it's not fair.
Can I ask about that? And I'm just curious, because you, coming up through your career, you are a visionary, you're a maverick director. What has a relationship been like with studios for you? How do you view a relationship? And again, I'm asking more from the perspective of like, somebody gets their first job in the business. How do they not get crushed by the machine? But how do they maintain a relationship where they don't get blacklisted either as sort of a difficult personality? Yeah,
it's interesting because I have had an interesting relationship with the studio over the years, you know, and I've always felt respected by the studios and I always feel like they've sort of seen the value in what I do. I think I always feel a little bit managed, you know, as a filmmaker, you know, like I always feel like they're
telling you one thing and then they're in a room talking about something else.
Yeah, they're just trying to keep me like, if we can keep him making our movie, it's gonna be amazing. You know, like, but you know, and that's why, for good or for bad, I've produced and released a director's cut for every movie I've ever made, right? So to me, the director's cuts are always better. They're always better than the movie that I released. And
that goes through testing and studio notes and more testing.
And I always just feel like and I'm cool with the notes, but there's a point where I just go like, no, this is the movie. I mean, I get the note, but this is the movie. And so with Watchmen, the movie is the length it is because of IMAX. And the director's cut is longer because I wasn't held to because the film would fall off. If the room was humid, the projection booth was humid, the film would fall off because it was literally, we had made the movie was like a minute longer. It couldn't stay on the thing.
On the spool.
So like that's when they were like, okay, it's whatever it is, 2:42 was it, and that's it. So we were like, okay, that's how long the movie is. We can like trim, like until we got it there, you know. And so I felt like there was stuff that I just didn't get 100% to do in that movie. And now like 300 is not a long movie. I think it's 210 or something like that.
Yeah.
So but that was a movie where I was really, because of the visual effects element and the budget wasn't that high and the amount of shoot days was pretty short, you know, that was a really like, to get the movie that we got was like a miracle, let alone anything longer.
In these situations though, where you have an assembly for your movie that's much longer than what you're ultimately going to bring it down to, even for the director's cut.
Sure.
Setting issues of the studio aside, like what's your process for getting it there? Do you use like outside eyes, fresh eyes to help you with that process?
I don't think at that point, you know, when you look at a 4-hour cut of a movie, you can pretty much be like, we don't need that. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're gonna really show them walk all the way over there and come back? You know, whatever. You know, that stuff's, I think, you know, in the first, there's an easy swipe of the table in those early days. And then, you know, it'll get to the point where you're like, start to go like, I really like that scene, but we gotta get rid of it. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
You know, and those are also pretty easy. In my experience, a lot of it has to do with just tone, you know, like that feels too rough, or that's too many mallets in the forehead. Rorschach shouldn't hit the guy 5 times. Do we really need to see his brains come out? And I'd be like, yeah, you kind of do. You know, so these are the conversations that I'd be having with the studio, you know, like, can we just, you know, Jeff was asking me that exact question, like, here's the 5 things we'd want you to cut, you know, what do you think? And I'd be like, okay, 2 of them I can do, you know? It's like that, you know? It's like, you guys know, it's like it's like there's a negotiation
It's a push and pull. I mean, you've spent hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
and,
it is a,
you
and
know.
by the way, and that's in some ways why, for me, the director's cut concept was a thing that at least I could be like, well, at least I know it will exist, you know, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Like like Batman vs. Superman, I think is a perfect example of there was no plan for a director's cut except for home video in the day. They would always come to me because those director's cuts, even like on Batman vs. Superman, it's some outrageous amount of the total after theatrical release was generated by the director's cut. It's like 80% of all the revenue came from the director's cut. You know, and which is the thing that if you look at the spreadsheet for the movie as a piece of business at the beginning of the endeavor, that line doesn't exist, right? And then in the end represents this massive amount of commerce for the film. So I don't know. So in that way, and Justice League, frankly, wouldn't exist if I hadn't really had that as the movie that I really wanted to make, you know. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to pull a fast one or, you know, it's a clever ruse.
Yeah.
It's just a teeny bit. But like, I always feel like, you know, sometimes I'm up against commerce, you know, and there's
a lot of strategy
natural.
as a filmmaker involved in getting